Afternoon, Colin. How are you?
Hello, how are you, Nick? Are you okay?
I'm good. How are you? How are you doing?
I'm all good. I'm all good.
Colin, thanks for availability and the will to share your expertise.
Yep.
First of all, introduction. I leave it to you to say to our audience, watchers.
Okay. Okay. My name's Colin Chambers. I have been a professional football scout for 23 years. I started off at Charlton Athletic in the Premier League under my mentor Ted Davis, who was the chief scout and an England scout at the time. And then I went to Bolton Wanderers. And then I did a little bit of freelancing, a bit with Luton Town. And then I went working for Middlesbrough for 7 or 8 years. And between all those clubs is my 23 years. And then I've worked with Northern Ireland under Ted when Ted was chief scout there. And I've worked for the Polish national team just recently at the World Cup, analysing Saudi Arabia for them. And we've partnered up with the company IPSO, as you can see behind us. We've partnered up with several universities, big clubs, and football federations around the world. Like you've got Uzbekistan, you've got India, we've got Malaysia, we've got Ministry of Sport in Malaysia, we've got Romania, we've got Poland, and the list goes on and on and on. We're quite a lot. We're well connected. We've been running for 9 years. And everything's good, and that's all about IPSO.
Do you want to share what IPSO stands for?
Yeah, well, IPSO stands for the International Professional Scouting Organization. And what we want to do is bring to the table professional scouting, because, I've been out there for many, many years, and I've seen a lot of people, and my mentor told me this, and he said to me, if you look around at the scouts, you'll see that there'll be 10 scouts at a game. And on average, if there's 10 scouts, you will only get 3 or 4 who are serious. And the other ones are playing at it. And they're not doing the job as professional as they should be. And what I mean by that is they're not watching the game properly. They're always talking, they're networking. So they can't be watching the game. They're not taking notes properly. They're leaving leaving with 20 minutes to go before the end of the game. They're turning up a minute before the game, and there's loads of procedures you can spot a good scout and a bad scout. So when I saw that the quality of scouting wasn't that strong, I thought it would be a great idea to design quality courses to show people it's not an easy job. It's a very, very hard job. And now that data's come into it, it's even more complicated, because now data and statistics have come into the game massively. And people think that's the be all and end all. Well, it's not, because their statistics and data is just to support what you actually see. And you've got to marry it all up, and it's got even more complicated, but fascinating at the same time. So now you've got to do the job seriously. And that's what we do.
That's great, Colin. I would say I've witnessed one of your courses. It was 1 hour and a half, roughly, or almost 2 hours. And I would say that they're super curious, extremely curious, and they care about details. All the things that you share from your expertise to the new scouts is something extremely valuable. That's why I'm happy to introduce you to my contacts in football as well.
Yeah, well, everything that we do is detailed. Our motto is attention to detail. And when people do come on one of our workshops or one of our courses, the first thing they notice is the attention to detail, and what makes us different from other people doing, education programs like this. We're really passionate about it. And by going into that attention to detail, it really does make a difference, because there's a lot of people, unfortunately, I've done my coaching badges, and there's a lot of people think they get a coaching badge and then they can automatically scout. They can, but you could before that. Anybody can do anything, but it's all about quality. What quality? Just because I pick a bag of balls up and some cones and I go on a football pitch and train some kids doesn't that means I'm coaching. Doesn't mean it's a good coaching session, but I'm coaching. Just because you pick a pen and paper, you go to a game and you analyze and you have an opinion on a player, that's scouting. But there's a difference between what an amateur would write and a professional, and the way you look at it. And that's what then with the highlights, that's the attention to detail. And we're trying to bring that to people's thought processes so that when they're analyzing a player, they're getting more to the nitty gritty. So you can't stop mistakes. Mistakes always happen in everything. but you can minimize them if you know what you're doing, and that's what we're doing.
Definitely agree on the point. It's not just what you are doing, but how you are doing it as well. And doing it the professional way is a completely different music. I agree.
Yeah.
So stepping into psychology, emotions, specifically, I mean, how we got connected. To what degree do you believe in the importance for the scouts, for the agents, for the coaches to understand the psycho-emotional spectrum of a player?
I think now it's becoming more and more important, and now it's becoming more and more important to look at the psychological aspects of players, because you've only got to look at some players, and I'll name a few names. Sancho at Manchester United at the moment, you know, he's not even apologizing to his manager. Something's gone on behind the scenes, and he's not apologizing. This is a player who's on £300,000 a week. This is a player they paid 100 million almost for, and he's fallen out with the manager. So there must have been some psychological problems with his character, his personality, or attitude. And they should have looked at this before they bought this player. You know, you look at Dele Alli, who went from MK Dons, and then he went to Tottenham, did fantastic, got in the England team. And then as soon as money is the root of all evil, unfortunately, money's coming into it. And these young players, and it's not their fault half the time, they're getting too much too quick. And psychologically they don't know how to handle it, you know, and they're getting in with the wrong crowds, they're going with the wrong people, and they're getting influenced to do silly things, and it has a psychological aspect on their minds. But you should have noticed that as a scout if you did your research properly. If you looked how a player talks to his captain, talks to his manager when they're walking off the pitch, when in the warm-ups, and there's so many things you can see if you know what you're looking for. And this is part of scouting, because take away the football's the easy bit, but then a big part of scouting is looking at the player and reading the player. You know, people say my observation skills are really, really good when I'm looking at a player to work his character out. Well, I've been doing it for 23 years. So when you're a long way away from someone, you're reading body language. You can tell when they're happy, when they're not happy. If you're looking at a player who's not happy, he's only going to be playing 50%. You can't judge him at that. And why is he not happy? Well, he might not like the formation. He might not like the kit. He might not like the manager. He might not like the training. All this comes into it. But all this you should have looked into before you sign that player from a psychological aspect. And I'm a massive believer, and I know most clubs do the research now, you know, and I'm a big believer that psychologists should be at every club. And I know they are doing, you know, the clubs are getting them in, because the golden nuggets are the young players, and they've got to get their mindset right. For the psychological situations in game situations, you know, how not to get wound up by an opponent, how to be calm and cool and relaxed. If you're calm, cool and relaxed and you're not playing on the edge, yeah, you can play better. But some players need to be playing on the edge to play better, and you've got to work that out. Do you know what I mean? And it's understanding when to put an arm around the player and when to tell a player off. You know, they respond differently. But if you're doing your homework from a psychological aspect, looking at the player, you know how to talk to them. I remember Roy Keane and some of the Man United players, Beckham, Giggs, Scholes, and they all said that Cantona got talked to differently than what they did when he was at Man United. And you have to, because of his psychological approach, the way he did things. And if you talk to him in the wrong way, it could go pear-shaped. And I think it's all about man management, and it's about getting into the player's head, getting them to believe in you, believe in yourselves, believe in the system that you're doing, and everything comes back to the word psychology. That's my thoughts.
Very, very, very good points. I do agree on the optimal level of discomfort, because discomfort, if it's taken the right way, like the constructive way, can really help the athlete to perform
massively.
As you said, all the players, footballers in this case, are different. So you might be detrimental pushing or giving pressure when it's not needed, and maybe the player is looking for a bit of comfort. Or as you said, the array of problems can be endless. It might be something related to the team, to the coach, or externally as well, to the family, to his own partner, whatever. So the crucial point, I mean, the core is to try to understand them not just as a players, but as a humans.
Yeah, well, I know some clubs now who hire detectives to follow multi-million-pound players to see what they're doing, away from football, to see if they settle down with a wife and kids and all that, or are they a party animal and they go out partying, and players like Paul Pogba. I remember him when he was 17 at Man United. He was the perfect player. He was brilliant. He goes to Juventus. He was unbelievable. He came back to Man United, and money, you could see he wasn't the same player from a psychological aspect. And you could see you're going to have problems with him. Now, if I'd have been working for Man United, and this is only my opinion for what it's worth, I would have probably advised, don't get him. I think it could be 90 million wasted because he's psychologically not right. Unless, you've got to remember what a scout is. A scout is like an insurance policy for the club. We're telling you what to sign and what not to sign, and you've got to listen. Sometimes clubs do and sometimes they don't. You know what I mean? And this is why there's a lot of TV pundits argue, why did the manager buy him? And they all look at things differently. But you haven't to look at it differently. There's only one way to look at a player, and it's properly. And if players haven't done the homework, or people like me or people in the game haven't done the homework on a player, it'll come back to bite you on the bottom.
Yeah, it should be, as you said, a big wastage of money. Or at least understanding the ones that need like a support or an extra coach, psycho-emotional coach, sport psychology, like a supporter for the transition. Colin, so we are saying it's extremely important for a scout or an agent to understand the mentality, mindset, emotional management skill of a player.
Yep.
How can be a competitive edge for a scout or an agency?
How can it be a competitive edge?
Yeah, how can be a competitive edge having someone as a psychologist in the team to analyze the player alongside technical and tactical skills?
Yeah, well, I think it just goes back to, it stops them making mistakes. It goes back to what we just talked about 2 minutes ago. If you know how to look at a player from a psychological aspect, we've got an observation course, and when you see it, you're going to realize how much psychology is in it. When you're looking at things, it's how you look at certain things, and this is where we come in, because we're professionals, because we've seen it 100 times over. The same thing happened to the same type of player, and if you don't nit it in the bud early, you're going to make a mistake, or players can change, players can go backwards, like Dele Alli, for example. How can a player who was brilliant go from there to there? And it all comes down to character, it comes down to attitude, it comes down to how he's looked after, how you've let him train, and all those sorts of things. And again, it's all there to right in front of your face, but you've got to see it, and some people can't see it. So it is a massive, massive important part.
Thank you, Colin. What do you think instead the football club, can do for the players in order not to get backwards? Like having educational training, psychology, emotions?
I think if somebody like yourself sat down with them and talked to the players, especially when players are going through a sticky patch, things aren't going right. Everybody has ups and downs, and that can come from your home life. Somebody could have died in the house. You could have lost your dog. There's lots of different things. You could have got divorced. There's many things could happen that can turn you around, for the good or for the bad. And I think sitting with someone like you and talking to someone like you and getting into the psychology side of it, getting into the deep thoughts of the player, would make him look at himself and reflect on it a little bit clearer. And I think it could help him with guidance.
Definitely. I totally agree. Clarity in every profession, I would say, talking more broadly, it gives you alignment, and it can unleash your peak performance or going back to the peak performance level.
But I think a professional like yourself talking to a footballer would see early indicators of psychological issues in his head. I'm sure you know what I mean by that. I can't tell you your job, but I know how it works, if you know what I'm saying.
Of course, there are, as you call them, indicators, and it's useful and crucial to realize what those are in order to work on them together with the player in a cooperative work, let's say.
I also think, you know, it could take a lot off the manager as well. I think it can take a lot off the manager, because the manager's got a lot to do these days, you know, and the manager's, it's hard enough running the team and looking after 14, 15, 17 players in the team. Then never mind putting his arm around one, you know what I mean? So to have a psychologist in there talking to the players, like a coach, a mentor, if you know what I'm trying to say, like a psychological coach, if you want to call it that, to have that on hand is like having a doctor on hand. It's like having a physio on hand. It is. And I think it could be really, and I think it could be good just by the guy just watching what's happening and watching the players from a psychological aspect. He could just say to the coach in training, can you say that there? It's because he did this, 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 this. And you could explain yourself. And those early indicators could be seen before it comes to a disaster point. Like, let's just use Dele Alli as a great example, because you can't do what he did and then fall backwards like he did without having psychologically, and it's all been shown up now that he did have psychological issues. You know what I mean? But this should have been spotted a lot earlier. And look at how much money's been wasted in that one, just for example. And there'll be more like that. But it could be stopped and it could be cleaned up. It could be rectified if someone like yourself is at the club looking at these situations.
It's a very good point, Colin, and I mean, I can really relate in daily life to what you're saying, because oftentimes I'm called to resolve a situation. Instead, emphasizing what you just said, having this typology of professional on board, it helps prevention, not resolution.
Yeah, yes.
And this counts a lot more. You save money, you save time. Is a switch. Prevention.
It's a £2 million business now, and especially at the top end of the game, you have to look at that side of it. You really, really do. You know, even not just for the players, for the coaches, for the managers, for everybody. You know, they could be having issues the way they talk to players. You know, it might just need somebody just having a word and saying something very quietly. Listen, do you not think if you did this, 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 it would help a little bit? And it's them little things that will make a difference.
Definitely. With this size of businesses, every risk has to be minimized. I agree with that.
There's too much money involved now.
Yeah,
you know?
I do agree.
And even if you're talking about a small club, even a small club, they will have an asset of one player who's worth $500,000 or $1 million. So it's worth getting people in like yourself to get the job done, making sure everything's covered. That's what it's about. Because like you say, if you get it wrong, it's a big boo-boo, and it's a lot of money lost.
Money, time, energies, frustration, and then media and press.
Yeah.
Colin, I don't want to take advantage of your time. What suggestion you might have for scouts, agents, or football clubs in order to step into or embrace this psycho-emotional topic?
Well, I think what they need to do is look into it like I have, but I sort of slipped into it, you know what I mean? Because as a scout, you start to realize, but through observation skills, you start to realize the psychological aspects. There's something wrong with players. So the agents, the coaches, or whoever, analysts, whoever, need to step into this, especially agents, because again, agents, and let's, you know, the players to them are cattle. You know, they get the cattle and they're moving them on and they're selling them, you know, and they're moving. Now, if you're not looking after that cattle correctly, it's going to go wrong and it's going to lose its value. So again, it's got to be looked at properly, because like you say, it's a multi-million-pound business and you can't go cutting corners.
Definitely. Colin, thanks for your time and for sharing your expertise and contribution. Very valuable. Thanks.
No problem.
So wish you the best for the end of the year. We are almost at the end of the year.
Yeah.
For 2024 as well.
All right. I'll send you a picture now and I'll send you the badge.
Perfect.
All right,
Thank
lad.
you,
Have a
Colin.
happy New Year.
Thank you.
See ya.
Likewise to you.
Ta-ra.